being frugal doesn't mean going without roast.
Today we're cooking up poor man's roast on a budget, right here on Cabin Life.
Hello, welcome to our channel. We're all about sharing our adventures and experiences around our homestead and off-grid cabin here on our 40 acres in the wilderness of Ontario, Canada.
We enjoy life around the cabin, exploring, canoeing, hiking, campfire cooking, gardening, and sharing our love of nature.
If you haven't done so yet, consider subscribing and click the little notification bell so you won't miss anything. Right here on Cabin Life with Glenn and Maureen.
Hi folks, I'm Glenn.
I'm Maureen.
Yes, today we're cooking up roast over an open fire, and Maureen's going to explain what we're doing as we go, and a few things to talk to you about as well. Back in the days when we've gone through some pretty tough times ourselves, we voluntarily started over our lives, actually. I think the first time we did it was when we were in our early 20s, and we went off to do some traveling, and we sold all our belongings and came back to Canada to basically nothing, and except for the backpacks on our back. And although I think we still had our bicycles at the time. And anyway, we moved up north and we started over. And there was another time that we started over as well, and getting this property here, our 40 acres, in retirement years after, having the being empty nesters, the kids growing up, and so we've started over once again, and it's been 3 years now, and we're making roots and making headway.
Yeah, starting over meant learning new recipes and learning how to be frugal with cooking and make her money stretch with our food, making simple meals that tasted good. A lot of it is having lower cuts that tasted good. So we learned one-pot cooking, and especially when we were traveling, one pot made our meals and they were really good. So that's what we're doing today. We're out here at the barbecue and we're cooking up a delicious and nutritious roast with veggies in the Dutch oven over an open fire.
Well, I think we've just about got the coals ready. One of the things we've learned about cooking over the fire for a Dutch oven applications, low and slow is the name of the game. You want just enough coals to keep things happening for a long time, not too hot. I learned that lesson in another episode.
A lot of people think it's romantic cooking outside over the campfire in the open fire with a Dutch oven. And it is nice. We really enjoy doing it. I love cooking over an open fire. When we were living in the cabin, we had a small camp cook stove that we used inside the cabin when the weather wasn't very conducive to cooking outside. So I learned a lot of one-pot meals because I only had one burner to cook on. One nice thing about cooking with a Dutch oven over an open fire is it allows us to go do other things while supper's cooking. We can go for a walk down to the beaver pond, we can work on the garden, do some other chores around the property, and then when everything's done, we come back to the fire and our supper's ready. With this meal here, what I have is a cross rib roast. It's a tougher roast. You need to cook it a long time, long and slow, and to give a chance for all the sinews in the meat to break down. And I find it's great. It's a good option for the Dutch oven. It's a fairly inexpensive meat. and you can get a great meal with it. I like putting carrots on the bottom under the roast. That keeps the roast up off the bottom of the pot, and we don't have to worry about it burning on the barbecue. I use a simple marinade on the roast with olive oil, vinegar, a few spices, and garlic. This was marinating for a couple hours to help it tenderize. And some onions and potatoes. The tenderizer will help the roast turn out more tender. So we'll have the flavor of the tenderizer and the vegetables.
Hey, that looks like it browned up pretty good. Yeah, looking good. Loving it. It smells really good too. So, by the looks of things, it doesn't look like I had the fire too hot. Looks like it was just about right. Anything scorched on the bottom? How's the bottom carrots looking?
Let's see.
Just curious.
Oh no,
I want to see how my cooking job. Flip one over. No scorch. Good. So this is what we're calling a poor man's meal, only because the cut of beef, it is a cheaper cut of beef. And what was that? $60 a pound?
No, six,
not
right?
six
But I mean,
$6
you can imagine, the price of meat is on the rise from what we see. Have you noticed a lot of price difference?
The prices are going up.
Yeah.
They're definitely going up. I think the lower cuts are going up more. They look like they're going up more than the more expensive cuts are going up.
So we did slow cook this so that it would hopefully be tender, and Maureen tenderized it and whatnot. So that's awesome. You know, we've had to take a step back many times in the past throughout the course of our lives, and by many times I mean 3, maybe 4 times where we've had to take a step back. Jake likes the smell of this too. Hi, buddy. Yeah, and we've had to start over voluntarily, where we've made a major move and buying this property when we retired after being an empty nesters, bought the property, and again we had to take a step back for a few years in order to have what we wanted, and it meant sacrificing along the way. And if we'd have continued on the path that we were on and didn't want to sacrifice anything and not gone without in the course of saving enough to purchase the property and whatnot, then we wouldn't be where we are now. We'd have a much harder time of doing what has been needed to be done, because without the proper finances, you just simply don't have options, right? So it's nice to be able to have the options.
And we also downsized everything in the house. All of our belongings, we downsized as well.
You know, and sometimes we have to, when we're planning ahead, sometimes we have to voluntarily take a step backwards so that you can, regain a few steps forward later on. And it may not always feel good taking a step backwards, doing without voluntarily and sacrificing, as it were. But if the goal is there, then it's worth it.
It sure is.
But if it's a worthwhile goal, then it's worth doing, and worth doing without for a little while so that you can have later on. So we have cooked carrots, a garden salad, some roasted potatoes, and nice roast with some fresh veggies. And what else you got there? Grated carrot. Well, that does look tender. It's falling apart. Wow. Well, I'm going to admit that off camera, I had a taste of the beef, and Maureen, I have to say, done in the Dutch oven, slow cooked, it's a cheaper cut of beef. It is amazing. It is really good. In fact, it's come out better than some of the more expensive cuts of roast beef. Very, very tender, and it's tasty. Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. That's all for this time. We'll see you on the next one. I'm Glenn.
Hi, Maureen.
Over and out.
Take care.